because if you think about Jamaica's location is primary, the primary location in the world for an international hub, right? If you think about Jamaica's time zone, perfect. If you think about the legal framework that Jamaica operates under, it's British, it's international. So we have location, we have time zone, we have legal framework, and we have language. So we should be the Singapore of the Western Hemisphere, but we are not. So therein lies the potential. So in January of this year, the Prime Minister led an emissary to Israel. David was, and myself were present. And with that in mind, and making sure that we don't lose the opportunity to build out this international logistics hub once and for all and do it right. And based on a philosophy that I have, that if you want to be successful at anything, any endeavor, there's a three-step formula. Number one, you identify a role model. You want to be successful at teaching, being a student, or building the best international logistics hub. Identify a role model. Who has done it eminently successful before me? Number two, get the recipe from the role model. And number three, do the same. Don't change it. So based on that formula, we thought, you know what? We need someone who has the experience of doing this. And we brought back a gentleman from India who was the former Minister of Infrastructure in Israel. His name is Gideon Sitterman. He was in charge of all roads, all toll bridges, all ports, airport and otherwise, and he's now working with us. He's our consultant. And he has given us access to his entire network. So recently, the president of the Port Authority of Jamaica, Professor Gordon Shirley, went to Rotterdam. Rotterdam is one of the largest international logistics hubs in the world, and he was given total access. Presently, there is an emissary to Singapore, again, role model, get the recipe, and we'll do the same. So this is an important national objective, and we're going to make sure that it is brought home this time once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. We're going to take four. There are four. I counted four earlier. So 1, 2, 3, 4 persons. So Delia first.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Delia Walker Huntington, and I'm a Jamaican living in South Florida.
Question?
One of the issues that we have.
of visiting the diaspora. Excellent question, Jackie, and I totally agree with it. I will say that the Prime Minister himself, I met with him yesterday, he's off to Singapore. He left to Singapore last night, but he has indicated that he would like to do more meeting with the diaspora in the United States and Canada, and he's actually putting together a schedule to visit various various cities in the United States, Canada, and the UK over the next 6 to 8 months, and he's working very closely with JAMPRO on that. So I do know that he has a commitment to that. I've been helping out in various areas, and I do think it is the right thing to do. Let me just say on this last point about indiscipline and people talking down. I'm very glad that the person said what he said. I agree that there's a lot of indiscipline and a lot of disrespect in the society, and it's certainly something that needs to be addressed. At the same time, I think we should all be, as the gentleman said, we should really appreciate that different people communicate in different ways, and that not all of us can meet the standards that you set for yourselves. And I think we should be open-minded in listening to others, particularly those who, have made a commitment and sacrifice for our country. So that's how it is.
I just want to, as we wrap up, Victoria Royal has questions about getting commitment for investments in Jamaica. I believe the question was answered differently. In other words, there's a stock exchange that we can talk to, NCB Capital Market, Jane Fund Managers, Victoria Mutual. You have various financial institutions that could work with you to create a way in which to raise the capital, but it would have to be in a structured way with a proper business plan. Investors want to see what's the return that they will get from it. In relation to the issue of probate of wills, that was a matter, I think, that went to the EGC in terms of the amount of capital that it would release. We have Melrose Reid here, who is an attorney, who will quickly tell us about the problem. Very, very quickly. Melrose.
Good morning, members of the diaspora. I just heard the question, and I'm an attorney in Jamaica. I thought I could give a brief response. Probate in Jamaica takes about 1 year to be completed. Quite often, the probates that we get from the US, Canada, England, and other places are persons who have died for, say, 40 years or more. Quite a long time. There is estate duties to be paid. You have to do a valuation of the property. So when someone calls to say, I want a property to be probated, it's not as just getting up and say 1, 2, 3. Sometimes the will is so defaced, you can't find the witnesses at all who had witnessed the will, and now the government has instituted what is called an estate duty. So the dead person has to get a TRN number for the estate. Yes, a dead person. And even if the person had a TRN number, you have to get a new TRN number for the estate. In addition to that, many of the persons who are applying for probate with the children of the deceased, they are living abroad for years. For you to do any business in Jamaica, you have to have TRN numbers. So you have to get the TRN number for the persons who are applying for the estate, TRN number for the dead person, and a lot of issues. So the issue is that, and the court system also, as we don't want to go there, it is short-staffed. But if we have all the relevant documents and everything come into place, then the will can be probated in a year or less.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. I know we tend to like the spirit world in Jamaica, but boy, getting a TRN for the dead is a new one. Listen, we're at the end. We had a great session. We had some great information. Michael Leachin, through his words and his example, has demonstrated that we can invest in Jamaica. We can make a difference. Some key words from his presentation. Economic growth is the center of it all. Without economic growth, no schooling, no health, crime, social dislocation. It's important that becomes a factor. From 1850 to now, Jamaica has struggled with growth. 1832 to 1930, average growth rate 2.5%. So this is not something that was developed only the last few years. The 60s was the shortest period of real growth. And so it's a century-old problem. So it's going to take a while for the psyche to change, Mike. And you're quite right. the whole issue of creating an environment where we have lots of people coming into the country, even persons from the diaspora. Anybody who lives in Mandeville will understand that the diaspora are different. In other words, if your lawn gets out of line, the Jamaicans from England are going to tell you to cut your hedges and to clean up the place. It's a different set of values, and that applies to business as well. David spoke to what the EGC task force is about. Some important points. The idea of an immigration card for Jamaicans is important. It gives you the right to stay. The immigration officer won't give you 2 weeks to stay. When you come and your passport says born in Jamaica, but it's an American passport, you get 10 days to stay in Jamaica. It's a big issue. In India, you're able to conduct certain kinds of business except voting in that country once you're a person of Indian descent. And the idea of repurposing the foundation to capture the participation of a broader set of the community overseas is a very good one. And we look forward to David's leadership of that role going forward. And it's good to see that through the EGC, we are now getting more Jamaicans who are in the diaspora beginning to participate. So the question was asked, how do we get involved? Be like David, step forward, just like going to church, step forward, be counted, you're involved, just like that. We got the numbers today, which is very good. An idea as to what's the value of the diaspora. I'm almost thinking that you need a ministry of the diaspora, given that this thing is so huge. And maybe now that Michael has the information and he has the power to get things in the IMF agreement as we have seen, he can probably somehow get this area to be properly addressed. What gets counted and measured gets some results, and today we have an indication of the measurement. I want to thank everybody for being here today, and for those whose questions were not fully answered, we will answer them in the course of time. So thank you all for coming. We're going to go on our 2 minutes. We want to now go on our break. We're supposed to have finished at 10:15. We're behind time, but the break time hasn't shortened. So we're going to come back here at shall we say, it's now 10:47, shall we say we get back here by 11 o'clock to carry on with the rest of the session. I believe Najaso wants to hand the book to Michael Leachin. Najaso, come up here quickly. Mike, you have one word to say, or no word? No word to say, no word to say.
Sir, just turn around.
No, Mike, point observer.
Mike, can you just let him present the book to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just look this way.
Uncle Mike,
Just turn to me.
Salis one?
Yeah. He's doing something here, sir. You ready?
I don't busy with the rest. Thank you very much. Remember the survey from Salisis. Hand out the forms at the door. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you.
Can we get a picture here, sir?
I just told them.
If you filled out the survey that was handed out, you can bring them right here to the front.
Thank you.
David.
Yes, sir. How are you doing? Long time no
Cool, mate.
Yes.
They want to take a picture.
Okay, 1 second. 1 second.
David, just come right.
Got to go to the promised land. Oh gosh, in the promised land. Oh, I miss